Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Mark from SolarGames, and today we're gonna just hop right into our SolarGames AMA video. So the idea here is, of course, we got 6 pages full of questions from YouTube, Patreon, everywhere, and I'm gonna go through all of them. If it takes 2 videos, 3 videos, then so be it. We're gonna keep going until we get everything done, and that's how I'm gonna roll today. Also, in tradition with my videos, very little prep. I read the questions, but otherwise I haven't like dropped down notes or anything like that. I started doing that and realized it's just taking more time to write the notes that I'm gonna read to you rather than just answering live, from my bottom of my heart or, on top of my mind type of thing. So we're gonna give it a go and see how it goes. If it totally sucks, then I guess for the next AMA, I won't do that. We'll find out. Okay. Lane from Patreon asks, what's the best way to engage with graded card in the MTG world? And is there some strategy around this? Yeah, so the grading world is really, really challenging. I would say that in a lot of ways it's it's very similar to serialized cards. So in the graded world, right, obviously having a high grade matters a lot, but the other thing that actually matters too is the population. And this is part of the things that a lot of people don't realize about the graded world is that, if you're grading Black Lotuses, right, Alpha Black Lotus, Beta Black Lotus, Unlimited Black Lotus, especially Unlimited Black Lotus, there's actually a lot of Unlimited Black Lotuses, and probably a lot of them that are getting the same grade as, what you're getting. So it becomes a little bit challenging because now your Black Lotus 9.5, good, Lotus, is actually kind of like a one of, let's say, 250 or one of 1,000. And that's challenging for pricing because, well, people are saying, hey, that's not really that rare. Whereas if you grade a card that's maybe like one of one, but it's like something different, well, then, of course, that has its premium just by the fact that it is lower population. Now, there are a lot of ways that people could potentially take this data to manipulate, and so you got to be a little careful with the whole grading world. That's the thing about grading. And is there any strategy around that? Absolutely. I mean, people can list whatever they want, and they could, of course, you know, a lot of card games, a lot of collectible games, right? You'll see the sellers will say something like, "Hey, this is a, I don't know, like, you know, um, Ifrit, right? And it is a, BGS 8.5. That is a population of, like 45, right? So then, okay, like, cool. So you're like, oh, well, there's only 45 of them. I can get one of these, that kind of stuff. You have this kind of idea about that. And so, of course, that may promote buyers to go buy your card more because, well, you're sending the population report, bringing that information to them so they don't have to look it up and they realize how rare this card is and that kind of stuff, right? So there's a little bit of strategy around there. Personal thought though, just I know you didn't ask this, but I'm gonna give it to you anyways, is that I don't really like grading. I kind of find it annoying. Part of it is because, of course, if you slab a card, you can't play with it anymore, so there's kind of loses value there. It does look pretty nice, but so does something like this, and you could do this for like $1. I think most stores sell this kind of thing for $1, and you can get the stands that they kind of go on for like, a little bit more than that, whatever. And by and large, with these two things, you're good to go. You have a nice stand, you have a nice card in a case, it's well protected from drops, whatever. And if it makes you feel better, write a number on there, right? Grade it yourself. You can get the tooling. If you want to know how to grade, I can kind of show you a video. Again, I'm not a professional grader or anything like that, but there's a video I've already put out there where I'm grading my friend's super rare card from Grand Archive that does show you just in general how to grade and what kind of graders look for when they grade a card. So if that's what you care about, well, you can just kind of grade it for yourself. The second part of it is I just don't like when a third party does that for you. So it's similar to the eBay authenticity system, right? Just because somebody authenticates a card doesn't mean it's actually authentic. Now, it does help a lot of people, and I'm not saying BGS or PSA or any of these other grading companies are like out there doing evil, authenticating fake cards. But what I am saying is like I still just would like to verify that myself. I really don't want another company to do it. And there's plenty of cases. Go on YouTube, go on Reddit, and you can look for people who have sent in cards that are obviously real and they get rejected. So there's all sorts of weird funkiness with grading. It's just not something I really want to engage with. Of course, in addition to that, you're paying somebody like 18, 20. I think during pandemic when everyone was grading Pokemon cards, I mean, the grading service is shut down because they were charging people $30, $35 per card. And that was normal. And that was just the way it is. And that's the cost they were asking for. So yeah, personally, I would never grade a card. I would just say, hey, the card is worth what it is. But if people want to sell me a graded card, yeah, I'll take it, man. It's cool. Just extra value already add. I'm not really gonna pay extra for the fact that it's graded. I will pay, of course, for the fact that it's, of course, the premiums, the 9 and 10s, they're gonna hold a premium. But I'm basically gonna just, look at the card, and if it's a good looking card, then that's what matters to me, not what someone else put a number on, right? Or what that number is. So there's that. All right, Tom R asks, are collector's booster boxes really worth it if you don't pull a chase card? No. I think with Magic nowadays, modern day Magic, I mean, we're talking collector's boosters, so that's really Eldraine and beyond, right? So the fire design. Yeah, collector's boosters are not worth it. I think for a while I did realize there was some price discrepancy between set boosters and the value inside due to the list slot. But even now, with more and more of these cards from the list being reprinted, the list having its own rarity, the list printing a lot of like garbage cards, that and set booster is actually rising prices now. I think Wizards of the Coast is pushing set booster prices up towards above draft and really where they should have been. I don't think opening any booster is worth your money. So I think Professor is correct in saying that you should just buy singles. If you actually want to make money opening boosters, man, the reality is you just got to sell pre-release. Because pre-release, there's a lot less access to cards. Not a lot of people have that many cards. A lot of people who are like tourney grinders, whatever, are willing to pay you more money for it. But unfortunately, that also gives a lot of people feel bads because, they can see cards that they paid $40, $50, $60 for instantly drop to $20, $10, $5, $0 within like about a week or two. So there's that. Plus, if you're selling pre-release, you got to like be really careful. What if your products don't arrive? What if you didn't have enough? What if you didn't pull that card, right? You see me open boxes where I would open 18 to 24 boxes and not pull, like maybe I don't get 2 copies of a certain mythic rare. And that's a really scary thing because you're already down like $2,000 and you can't pull a, I don't know, $10 card type of thing. You might as well just buy it, right? So pre-release is really tricky. And you got to ship it on time. And then there's also the other risky part, which is like what happens if a card rises in price after you sell it. Of course, don't cancel orders. Don't be a dick. But at the same time, like, imagine if you oversold and you can't pull that card, and the card is now higher in price. Are you gonna go buy it on the secondary market to fulfill the orders for the buyers? It's a tricky spot. Anyways, in general, like, no booster box is worth it, even collector's boosters. Because again, even if you pull the chase rare or the chase card, it's essentially what's happening here is you've already paid for it, right? It's just kind of like averaging large numbers. So there's really nothing there. All right, so 89 and oh my gosh, a bunch of random letters and numbers asks, so it seems like, as time moves forward, there's an increasing incompatibility between the Magic community. So I'm assuming he's talking about the players and the Magic players and the Magic for Bitcoin. So MTG Finance folks, I guess. And there's less possible to provide a balanced perspective on both sides and quite time consuming to cover both. Which of these perspectives do you plan on putting on more focus? I think I definitely started my channel as MTG Finance because, again, I didn't feel like I'm a player. I still feel that way. I don't think I'm good enough to teach you guys about Magic and how to play, how to draft, how to play limited. I do enjoy playing the game, so maybe that's where I'm a little bit different from some of the other MTG Finance purist content creators. I think I will be putting more of my effort into like probably the financial part of it. But I think looking at just like a straight divide of both is kind of a little bit too linear. I think there is a good medium ground between the two that we can talk about. I think there are a lot of sets that I would love to talk about and tell you that it's both fun to play and it's financially like meaningful, where you can actually be okay like buying a set like this, have a lot of fun, and the cards aren't worth nothing, right? So a good example of that would be Neon Dynasty, which is a really fun draftable set that is also financially viable because of cards like Boseiju and hopefully they don't ban this soon, but like you got the mirror breakers and stuff like that, that will boost your booster box up quite a bit. Wandering Emperor, I mean, like, there's just too much value in Neon Dynasty as a booster box. So good set to have. There's a lot of these options there. I think also as time goes on for my channel, you probably realize this with me covering Grand Archive and other games. I'm just going to start diversifying. There's a lot of things that we can cover. The other part too that makes me really excited to make more videos for you guys all is because I also want to pass on some of my knowledge and share with everybody. This is why the Discord and Patreon exists, is so that we can share with everyone about like, what's happening and really understand from each other and learn from each other. So I suspect there's going to be other videos that are not necessarily magic, but more around like how to be a better person or, do better for yourself, have a more successful life. These are topics that I actually find a lot of value in. I don't see a lot of people genuinely giving that kind of pep talk to younger generations. And I was lucky enough to have mentors that did that for me, but I just don't see that everywhere. And I feel like sometimes you do need to hear it, and you do need to hear it from different sources. So maybe I can be that plus one in addition to people's parents or whatever, to really get them like motivated to do something for themselves, which I would love to see that. Okay, next question. Mr. Catching Up asks, have you found any good use for massive amounts of commons yet? Oh, okay, this is a great question. Do you tell your friends that they can take whatever commons they want and just get them out of your home? Yeah, so commons and bulk in general, I would say a lot of uncommons are now in this category, and some of the rares, a decent amount of rares too. One thing that I found was really fun during pandemic years was creating a bunch of these decks. So I think my friend showed me some of the starter decks that stores used to have for free that were like intro decks that new players can look at and play, and it's like easy to grok, and it had all the lands and everything needed, and it had some cards like you'd have like one rare in there, and it's like I thought it was a good idea, and I thought it was a neat idea, especially with all the kids at home at that time. I decided that I was just going to build a bunch of these decks and then hand them out to like parents in the neighborhood. If they want their kids to play Magic or learn a game, whatever, it's a simple deck where they don't have to think a lot about like interactions and stack, whatever. And it's still pretty fun. Obviously low power level, but I'm filling with commons. So it feels almost like a pauper deck. I was doing that a little bit. I think some parents appreciated that. I also realized pretty soon that some people were abusing this, and they were basically, I don't know, taking my decks and trying to break it up and sell like bulk. It's a really weird thing. Anyway, so I basically stopped doing that. And it just basically got really busy for me too. Time-wise, it didn't make sense. So that's what I was using commons for. But nowadays, commons are good as card dividers. They are useful for proxying. I think you recommend that too in your comment. You can proxy other cards. That's actually a really good way to do it, by the way. If you ever want to practice, like if you're a serious player, proxying on a actual card, having that feel is nice. So you can print out the cards, stick them on the commons that you're going to throw away anyways, and then just put them in a deck and start really practicing with it. Get a feel for a deck and see if you like it, then purchase the cards, right? But it's a good way to do that too. I think it's something like that. Otherwise, yeah, they're pretty much throwaways for me as well. Yeah. Okay, Derek V, who is also a patron, asks, in the age of overprinting, right, as in quantity of cards being printed for each set, do you think there are any cards from failed sets in the last couple of years that might go up in value? Okay. Failed sets. I think the funny thing is like this. If you remember Amonkhet or Ixalan or any of these sets that are failed sets, look at the price now versus what the price were when we all thought they were failed sets, right? Even Modern Horizons 1. So Modern Horizons 1 is right around when I got into this whole like MTG finance era. So that's like 2019, right? I remember I purchased Modern Horizons 1 boxes for, I want to say 150-ish, 150, 160-ish. And that's like tax, shipping, all that included. And now like Modern Horizons 1 are like, I don't know, 200 something, right? Don't really look at the prices, but they're higher. So the thing about failed sets is that in general, failed sets means that Wizard prints less of them. And if in the future the set is still reasonable or fun, or somebody discovers something that we didn't know, then of course the set being out of print helps to boost its price. So there's still value in that. And of course, we never want to bet on anything because you never know what card and what set could potentially be like crazy. And you never know which set is going to be like just a dud forever. Like Strixhaven is a good example of this. Like it's been what 2-3 years now since Strixhaven, and that set still hasn't really done anything. And a lot of people were saying, when the set was being released, that this is like the new Ravnica, right? We're gonna have our new 2-color pairs, and we're gonna remember Silver Quill and Witherbloom. And realistically, no one really cares, and they're still gonna say Gugari and Orzhov, right? So yeah, I think there's going to be risks. So the best way to deal with that is just buy a little bit of everything. Whatever's within your means, buy whatever little bit of everything. Especially if you enjoy the cardboard, it doesn't matter. Like worst case scenario, I always tell my friends, right? Worst case scenario, I have a bunch of boxes, and we're going to be drafting for life. I mean, isn't that pretty sick? Like think about this. Like imagine you're like 50, right? And you retire, you got nothing else to do. Call your friends over and you just go in the garage and pull out a booster box, whatever, random it, right? Extra packs, chaos draft. It's pretty cool. And okay, the card's worth nothing, great. After we're done, we rip it all apart. Or some people keep it, take some with you home, whatever, right? If we really get to that point and I don't buy any more products, I still have things I can just enjoy for the rest of my life. So there's that. I feel like WotC can't afford to have another failed set looking, new Capenna, Commander Legends, Baldur's Gate. But could this be a trend for the future standard sets as they likely, and is it likely that a few useful cards from these sets gain value, or will they reprint them? Yeah, so this is the whole question is just around like reprints and fail sets. Look, Streets of New Capenna and Commander Legends Baldur's Gate are not failed sets. I know it feels really bad right now, and I know the reason it feels really bad is because actually the overprinting. Remember what happened to Ikoria, and remember what Triomes did. Streets of New Capenna, no matter how much you hate the set, has Triomes. Long term, that set is not a 0. Now, if it's printed like crazy, it will be a long time before that, gets consumed. But if you think Commander is going to grow and the Magic community as a whole is going to grow, Triomes are not something to be ignored. And in the future, if there's ways to kind of abuse that, especially in Pioneer, right? Hint, hint, maybe fetch lands for Pioneer, then you think Triomes are going to be even more used in other formats and demand goes up. So there's that. But obviously, because none of these cards are like safe from a reprint, technically Wizard of the Coast can go back and reprint them. They're usually pretty smart about lands though. This is one of the reasons they've kept most of these dual lands and tri-lands at rare, because they really don't want that many in circulation. And so they can always kind of control the price. If they see that Triomes are not appreciating as much in price, likely they won't reprint them for a while. And if it gets to a point where Triomes hit $20, $30, they're probably going to hit a reprint. So we're going to find out in the next, pretty soon with the, I guess, Eldraine's coming up, and of course Ixalan, and I'm sure Ikoria's in the, Ikoria number 2 is in the making. We'll see in Ikoria number 2 if we finish the Triomes, or do they introduce, finishing the Triomes interesting because they would basically double do the ones from Capenna, and now there's 2 possible cards for a Commander deck, so that's a little bit tricky. I think they might just reprint their Triomes again. We'll see. So we'll find out when we get there. Okay, Wesley M asks, strange question, but what changes in your body have you noticed as you get older? From those, or from yourself or those around you? Yes, this is a very strange question, / also very personal. What changes? Honestly, when people say things like, man, when you hit your 30s, whatever, you actually feel like you're hitting your 30s. I've been trying, I've always been a chubby kid ever since I was a little kid. I'm starting to try to lose weight a little bit, try to get to what I call a healthy weight. And honestly, just makes me feel better. But honestly, I've always been very active as well. As an example, my work, I work on basically 16th floor of a building. I don't take the elevator every morning. I take the stairs because I think it's actually kind of fun. And I would read webtoons as I'm taking the stairs. So there's that. Otherwise, I think one thing I think is actually really interesting about this question is more than physically, I've realized mentally I've become a lot more mature in the last, I want to say like 4 or 5 years or so. Obviously, having a kid really gives you moments of clarity that you start rethinking, reshaping your whole life, rethinking your decisions, those kind of things. But otherwise, like, in general, like you feel more mature. And then these mistakes that you've made in the past, you're more analytical about them and you're more like maturely dealing with them, which I find really just fascinating. And maybe just the way I do things now, I push myself a lot harder, and because time is more precious to me than when I was 20s. I mean, in my 20s, dude, like you just waste time, right? Like play video games for what, 12, 15, 16 hours a day and don't care. And nowadays in your 30s, you're like, your time is like super valuable. So you have no time to do any of that stuff, wasting time. So there's that. I mean, it's like what, 11:30 right now, and I'm making videos for you guys. Sorry, it's already 12. Holy shit, I gotta go to bed. Yeah, it's like 12 and I'm making videos because it's really fun. But at the same time, I don't really have a lot of free time to myself anymore. And so at night when I'm making these videos, when I'm talking to you guys, that's my free time essentially. Okay, Holy Trash Bag asks, great name by the way, pretty sick. Hi Mark, greetings from Germany. Hello. How did you get to the point of having your own shop distribution slash distribution? I've been thinking about setting up a store LGS myself. I'm quite interested in your story. There's actually more than one of these LGS questions that I got. And to be honest, I don't have a store. I don't have a physical store. I'm not a distributor. I have sources where I get my cars from. And in general, I wouldn't recommend it. Here's why. It's a very tough business. And especially with the way that Magic and pricing is going, direction in general, I would say more often than not, you're going to lose money trying to have a store. And I don't technically have rent because I operate everything outside of my house. It's an online store essentially. I don't have to rent a store, brick and mortar, and all that stuff, pay the, whatever, utilities, stuff like that. I'm just paying utilities for my house. It's okay. It's actually reasonable. But even this is just too much work. I much rather and much more enjoy doing YouTube videos, even though it's less money and less profitable for me than to sell Magic cards. And but that's a lot of more work, I think, and long term it's just more fun for me to do things I like. So I still like packing up cards and shipping them and listing them and finding deals, but I think more for me, I'm in it for the long run. And it's not doing the singles business and quitting that whole pre-sale business has given me a lot more time to go and just enjoy games again. I started really picking up Grand Archive, thinking about decks. Again, I still don't have time to build decks or anything like that, but I have more time to go play the game, and I'm really enjoying it, right? So something competitive, it's maybe in my nature to do that. So my recommendation to you is I wouldn't open an LGS. I know it's like sounds really great, but just don't do it. Rather than doing that, maybe talk to some of the store owners and just get their experiences. Chat them up, figure out like what they like, what they don't like. If they come to you offering to sell you half of their store, don't do it. And that's a pretty good sign that the store is not working well, because no one just comes up and offers you half when they're making money hand over fist. What they're trying to do is have you shoulder half of the risk. So be careful. If you see a lot of that here, that it's likely it's not a good business, I would just be careful. Most of the store owners I talk to, they're not happy with Wizards of the Coast especially. They're not happy with the direction of Magic. And every single set that gets printed means that their inventory most of the time will have to take a 20-30% haircut because, like Commander Masters is coming up, right? And a lot of these stores are panic selling like everything. Cyclonic Rift, Jeweled Lotus. I mean, I've seen a person trying to sell me a bunch of Jeweled Lotus recently. Why? Because it's already on the reprint list. So who wants to hold on to the most rare, whatever, modern card? Yeah, it's stupid. So, yeah. John BTS says, we love you, Mark. It's not a question, bro. Love you too, by the way. Thank you for joining Discord, and I hope you're having fun there. Love you. Ask me a real question next time, please. I really, seriously, I know even if you don't have a question, ask me a weird question. I'm down. I'll answer it. Joshua E says, love the videos. with how WotC has been acting lately, do you think they are trying to run up the prices and sell the company off? It seems like they're self-sabotaging. I love Magic, but I don't know if they will be around for the next 10 years at this rate. Yeah, I feel your concern, dude. Like, are they trying to sell the company? No, I don't think so. I don't think Hasbro will sell the golden goose at all. I mean, obviously, if you ask any CEO, right, that even if companies that don't want to sell themselves, as long as they're not literally the biggest company in the world, where they cannot be bought by anyone else, basically, they will always tell you this: I'm not ready to sell my company, but obviously there are prices that I cannot refuse. So make me an offer I cannot refuse. Then sure, I'll sell my company, right? Of course. So, but in general, I don't think Wizard of the Coast is selling their company. In fact, they're owned by Hasbro, so they really can't sell their company. It's going to be Hasbro selling their company or selling WotC off. And if you watch my earnings report videos and such, dude, they're not making money. Hasbro's not making money without Wizard of the Coast, so there's no way they're selling this company. So they're not gearing up for a sale. They're not trying to make their numbers look better. If anything, they're making their numbers look better so they can get their stock back on track. Hasbro's stock has lost almost 50% from its highs almost a year ago. So there's a lot of problem there. Of course, the board's not happy, the investors are not happy, and they're going to, hold the pitchforks until they get their money. And Wizards of the Coast is the only division making money, so they're going to keep pushing this. On to the actual other part of the question about like direction, sabotaging the game. What I see is a company that is being pushed so hard to make money that it doesn't know what to do. And with the 3-year standard announcement, with saying things like we're going to return to competitive play and then printing more commander cards, with all these little like pieces, or saying things like reserve list matters to us, and then reprinting reserve lists in Magic 30, thinking it's going to sell out, then lying that it's sold out, or lie by omission saying it's sold out but it's actually not sold out, shipping those cards now or packs to stores, having no respect for the players. Yeah, this is classic signs of a company that's flailing. And I think they're flailing for 2 reasons. One is obviously because they have no clue what to do. Right, the numbers are fine, as in like they have a global chunk, or they have a big chunk of the TCG market still, but it's wavering. Right, they're not growing as fast as other card games, and there are way more people that are trying to eat and get a percent of this pie than there were before. So now they have to be on their toes to try to innovate themselves. Part of this innovation has been, well, secret layers make money, so let's do more of that. Or universes beyond make money, so let's do more of that. But what they're forgetting is like, are these things actually adding more to Magic, or are they taking away from Magic? And that's where it gets tricky. So it's a long way to answer that question, but there's that. Anyways, it does look like we're going to have to do part 2 and, oh my gosh, potentially part 3. So we'll kind of cut it off here, and then we'll do a part 2 coming up soon. So I hope you really enjoy it. This is Mark from SolarGames. Stay classy.